I'll let it and off we go.
You can do all the hard work. I'll just drink coffee.
So 7 coffees a day, 9 coffees a day.
5. No.
5. I was speaking about myself. You asked me before. You said be honest. Working from home, 7 coffees.
Well, let's not get judgmental.
No judgmental here at all. No.
Things you say off camera that come back to bite you.
There's nothing you said in criminal, so it's all right.
I know, I'm just very, very caffeinated.
Very energetic, I think was the word used before.
Yeah, energetic.
It's funny, I've had half of the coffee.
Yeah.
I'm already peaking.
I know. It's so good. It's like I can do like all the other health things, but I just can't give up coffee. I love it. Yeah.
Have you tried, you got what coffee's your drink?
Long black.
Long black.
No sugar.
Did you start with milk before that?
No.
That's where I'm going wrong. Okay, I got it.
So I've heard that if you want to go to long blacks, you have to like have sugar in your coffee before you cut it out.
Yeah. I can't do that. I tried that. The sugar doesn't really help.
No.
That's all right.
I love it though. I think because I started with them. Yeah.
Nothing bad. So training at Kings and Immersion?
Mostly immersion. So only Kings when I'm having an MMA fight. Yeah.
Only when you're having an MMA fight?
Yeah.
Have you done any the Muay Thai immersion at all? Or do you rather not stick with Hoshi, but train with Hoshi and...
Yeah, I think because Hoshi, we've fought together before and he knows my striking. So, yeah. And I just trust him the most with it. So, yeah, but I've done like a few classes for fun. But I think it was very hard to compete in Jiu Jitsu and MMA at the same time. I did it for a little while where I was kind of doing both. And then I just was getting a bit medium at both. So I was like, I have to pick a lane.
Yeah, I get that. So do you have a head coach when it comes to your MMA fights?
Yeah, Hoshi is he's my head coach. And then it's just whoever is doing jiu-jitsu with me or can come. Because oftentimes it's better now because they have more promotions in Melbourne. But when I started, it took a little while before they legalised like cages. And I didn't want to fight in a ring because it was really dangerous. And I saw people just fly out of them and I was like, no.
Not doing that.
No, I'll go to Queensland. Thanks. So, yeah, in the beginning, it was just whoever I could get to come up with me and Hoshi. And then, yeah.
So does he organise your training sessions all across the board, including the weights training? Organise when it happens?
Pretty much, yeah. Like when we sort of put together a camp, usually my last one was, I think it was a 6-week one, just because I had a lot of other jiu-jitsu comps at the same time. So I was prioritising that. And then we were like, okay, this is a 6-week camp. But luckily I was sort of fit from competing in jiu-jitsu. So he worked out all the sessions that I had to do and how much strength training I had to do. And then I just did that plan. But yeah.
What's your favourite? Jiu-jitsu, I'm sure is.
Yeah.
Is that... I think you mentioned it before, you'd rather not get hit in the face. I don't want to get hit in the face at all. I don't want to get kicked.
Yeah, no, I hate it. Yeah, being kicked is the worst. So I don't mind punching someone else, but I don't want to
don't want to take it.
No.
So why did you start doing MMA?
Oh,
or did you do jiu-jitsu first?
I started with like Japanese judo and jiu-jitsu and I just loved it. But where I started, they didn't compete. So a bit more like old school and they were like, no, it's just, as a martial artist. And then I thought, I kept seeing, I actually hated MMA in the beginning. I thought it was really scary. I was like, who would ever do that? I would never do that. And then I moved to Queensland. I had a coach and he was like, you could have a fight. And I was like, maybe I could. And then I think because I was curious, I just thought, yeah, I'll do that. So I have fought MMA before I ever competed in jiu-jitsu. Yeah, so I kind of went the other way around to most people.
I don't think I'll ever do MMA. I walked into a cage. No. I get scared. I don't want to get punched or kicked. I'm good.
It does hurt, and people are like, what does it feel like? Does it really hurt? And I'm like, yeah, it really hurts.
I suppose I played football long enough. I got hit in football. I've gone, that hurts.
Yeah.
And that's not getting...
Football's brutal.
It is. It's bad.
My son does basketball. And he does jiu-jitsu as well. And everyone's like, do you worry about jiu-jitsu? He's never, ever, ever done anything in jiu-jitsu. But basketball, like fingers, knees, ankles, like everything. Yeah.
Why are the other parents saying that worried about jiu-jitsu?
I think...
Because it's violent. They perceive it to be violent.
Yeah, I think some people don't really understand what jiu-jitsu is. Like, when you say, I do jiu-jitsu, they're like, what is that? And you're like, it's kind of like wrestling. Is that what you say?
Yep.
Yeah. I feel like everyone that does
Exactly
jiu-jitsu
right.
is like, yeah, it's like wrestling. And then people imagine you in one of those, like, what are the wrestlers wear?
WWE, the shorts, the undies, the tights.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a nice visual.
It's great. It is fun. And if you're the Rock, Stone Cold, it's perfect. If you're not one of those,
We need to do
it's
more
not
crunches now.
get some more tan going on as well.
Yeah. Spray tan crunches. Yeah, so I think because people sometimes think jiu-jitsu is kickboxing, or they're kind of just confused that there's no striking.
Just think it's a cage fight.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's kind of the people in the jiu-jitsu community, like they understand it and they're obsessed with it, and then everyone outside of it is like, what is that? Is that karate?
What are you
kind
doing?
of thing? Yeah. Why would you do that? Yeah.
Do many of his friends do jiu-jitsu or any martial arts, or is he one of the, call it odd ones out?
Yeah, I think he's the odd one out, and I think like for jiu-jitsu, a lot of the kids that are at his school do karate and stuff like that. Yeah, I think because people sort of know what karate is, and but jiu-jitsu is just like emerging, I think. Yeah.
It's a little bit.
Yeah.
I hear a lot more about karate than I do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Everyone freaks out, and then you explain to them why you do jiu-jitsu over a karate or a kickboxing.
Yeah.
You say, but if my kid, your kid,
Yeah.
who does karate kickboxing kicks my kid in the head,
Yeah.
you're going to be in serious trouble, or vice versa. But if I can control your other kid who's doing, say, bullying,
Yeah.
then nothing's damaging, nothing's
Yeah.
too violent. It might look bad, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's a lot safer.
Yeah, I think it's really safe for kids. The safest martial art, I think, for kids is jiu-jitsu. Not that I'm biased.
No, not at all. Neither.
Goodness, no.
No, we aren't biased at all. Both our kids do. All our kids do it.
Yeah, I know. But the two parents that do jiu-jitsu are like, yeah, no, it's the best, obviously.
We're fine. That's good. Go ahead.
Yeah, but yeah, all of his other things, like I think footy, like you were saying, is brutal. It's so brutal. The footy players I know, like, get hurt all the time, and like, the jiu-jitsu people I know are pretty, like, relaxed, and it's very, like, seldom that you get a bad injury, I think. Yeah.
It is. Did you get your son into jiu-jitsu, or did he say, I'd love to do it?
I was pretty relaxed with him. I think he did his first class when he was 3 because I was doing it and I'd bring him along. And it was like all the other kids were doing it, so he, thought it was really fun. But he didn't really get into it until he was about like 6 or 7, I think. And then he sort of found his own way. But if he didn't, I'm this with sport with my son, I'm just like, if he says, I don't want to go training, I'm like, oh. And I just leave it to him. And then he'll be like, oh, do you reckon I'm missing out? And I'm like, yeah, probably. And then I let him sort of find his own love for sport. And now he loves it. So it's good. But I think if you push kids too hard, then they don't think it's fun. And then they can't, develop their own love for whatever the sport is.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he's done a couple of competitions, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Does he really enjoy those? Get stuck into them? Was he a bit more nervous, more scared?
The first one, he was really confident. He was, this is going to be great. And then he lost and he was like, oh my God, it was so sad. Yeah. And I think because it's not a team sport, he'd only ever done like basketball comps. So then it was like, the whole team loses and it's different. But when it's a single individual sport, it's even kids, you can sort of see they're like, oh, bummer. But then, that being said, like 30 minutes later, he was playing basketball on the court with the person that he fought. And then the next comp, he was much more nervous and he was more excited. And then, he won his second one. So he was like, oh, this is so good. Yeah, he was stoked.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So you've missed out on going to the Worlds this year.
Yeah.
I think they're starting to put on the comps. Well, they announced that they're going to put on comps. As to when, I'm not sure when.
Yeah.
Are you excited that they've announced that might be the case and you can now start getting really stuck back into training?
All my fingers
on July
and toes.
13th.
Yeah, on July 13th on the dot, and all my fingers and toes are crossed. Yeah, I think they might. I'm not sure, but I sort of, when everything went to lockdown, I was like, okay, well, if we're lucky, it happens. So we should, just try and keep fit and train as much as possible. And then, at least if it happens, we're ready. And then if it's next year, like, there's nothing you can do. But yeah, I am secretly just like checking the announcements all the time to be like, when's the comp? I stalk the IFBJJ page. Yeah, it's bad.
So how was the announcement when it came out? Did you have 5 minutes, a minute of, why did this happen? Or did you switch on that positive mindset pretty well straight away?
I think at first I was just really relieved because I nearly booked my flights for Worlds. Yeah, I nearly did. And I just, at the last minute, was like, oh, maybe I'll just wait till Feb to see if like prices drop because I'm tight. So I was like, okay, I'm just waiting. But I didn't book. And then when I found out, my first thing was like, oh my gosh, thank goodness. Like I didn't, do all my flights and do all that kind of stuff. So, but then after that, yeah, I think pretty much straight away I was like, okay, this news really sucks. But I also sort of saw like the different businesses and I could kind of put into perspective, okay, like I really want to compete, but no athletes. I think because everyone went through it collectively, you didn't feel like special. You weren't just like, oh, this is happening to me, this sucks. You're like, no, everyone's going through a bad time and some people are going through a really rough time. So, I can hang. Whereas I think sometimes, if you want to compete and you don't, but then all your friends are competing and you get the FOMO. Yeah. A lot of the athletes I know, they're not as upset because you don't have that, I'm missing out. You just kind of like, that couldn't happen. So we'll just do what we can kind of thing. Yeah. What about you?
It was not so much me. My wife was arguing on her going to the World Masters in Canada in August.
Yeah.
And she'd been planning on going to that for the better part of, 2 years.
That's right.
And then that got cancelled.
Yeah.
And she's completely lost motivation. She's just starting to get it back now.
Yeah.
That's, I suppose, your first real international competition. She's never had that before. You go, I've missed out.
Yeah.
But then you tell her it's on every 2 years.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is, every year. Different sort of world championships at the masters level. You just change your mindset, get back training because you can.
Yeah.
But that's a difficult conversation to have when someone's completely lost because that's all you've got your mindset on, and that's taken away.
Yeah.
The funny part is we've wanted to go to Paris for 10 years at least.
Yeah.
The next world championships I think are in Sweden. We've gone. It's not too far from Sweden to Paris. It's in August. The Tour de France is in July. Let's go up the middle of July, catch the end of the tour, then go off to Sweden to watch your race over there.
Yeah, amazing.
Kind of switched to light. It was fantastic.
Yeah, because I definitely, that being said, I knew that I had to sort of keep my attitude in check straight away because I was like, oh, I'm so grumpy. But then, I could sort of look up and I'm like, oh, it's really bad. Like, I think that was what helped me the most was just sort of seeing other people be hurt. And I was like, oh, okay, this sucks, but at least, I'm really lucky. I kept my job, all of those kind of good things, at least I'm healthy. But I think, because when you get ready to compete, you're so focused on that goal. You have to make so many sacrifices for the goal. And it's that hope that allows you to kind of train really hard. Because I definitely believe, like, I'm not so much I just enjoy the whole thing because I don't enjoy every workout or every session. I'm not that person. I'm just like, oh, I sacrifice to win. Like I've tried to win, like, and I love training, but some sessions I hate. And so I think for me, I can totally understand that, like, sacrificing to win thing, which I think when you then get that bad news that all the sacrifices that you've made kind of feel like they're for nothing. That's sort of the feeling that I think it is. But yeah, at least when you start, finding the next thing, like, oh, we could go do this, then you kind of get your hope and your motivation back again. Yeah.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You need to have a goal. I don't think you can train like as hard as you would need to or as hard as your wife would need to go to Worlds. You just probably couldn't put yourself through that unless you had a really like big goal that you had to sort of push yourself to. Yeah.
So speaking of goals, I think this last year you've achieved a few of your goals. I think it was nationals.
Yep.
And then, gold medal at nationals, not just nationals, and then Pan Pacs as well.
Yep.
Worlds was the next goal.
Yeah.
Now, assuming we get back onto that world stage, is there anything else that you wanted to achieve on a Jiu Jitsu MMA level?
Yeah, for me, I still think that I'll come back to MMA and probably have one more fight before going pro. But I think I remember I had an MMA fight, and then like 2 months later I did Nogi Worlds. And I've made it to the like quarterfinal. So before you become a medalist, I think I feel like saying 3 times of the 4 I've gone. So I've always been kind of like, so close but so far away. And so I think that I had an MMA fight, and then 2 months later I went to Worlds, and I just wasn't quite close enough. And I sort of realized, okay, I'm spreading myself a little bit too thin. I need to pick a lane and focus. And I think that for me, I don't really think about MMA. I don't really think about anything else other than Worlds until that's done. Yeah, I'm a bit single-minded. I'm like, I just do one thing, put all my energy there, and then once that's ticked, kind of pick the next thing.
Go to the next.
Yeah. But I wanted to win. I think the last things in Australia that I wanted to win was nationals and Pan Packs, because I sort of won all the other comps that I wanted to win. And then I sort of thought, okay, the next thing is Worlds. And yeah, I think for Jiu-Jitsu, like I love so many of the comps, but Worlds is just the one that I'm the most attracted to and the one that I have, my heart set on. Yeah.
So how many times a week would you train? If we go back to the weeks leading up to nationals or Pan Packs?
Yeah. I think for me, like 2 times a day is my ideal. Yeah. And anything on top of that or extra drilling sessions or extra S&C is good, but I try and just tick the 2 times a day box.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's what I sort of need. I need a lot of repetition to improve. So yeah, I try and aim for 2 times a day, Monday through Friday, and then 1 session on Saturday. And that makes me feel good.
And the strength and conditioning side, the S&C, that's done with Steve Lester.
Yeah, I was working with him before Worlds, and I really enjoyed working with him.
How did you come across him?
I don't really know. I think I was just looking for someone, close by, so I could get there easily in between training.
That's a big deal. Yep.
Yeah, and then I really liked his style of training. I sort of just felt like I needed someone to push me to get a little bit stronger. And I just saw him working with I think he was working with like runners and footy athletes and just a lot of athletes. And so I sort of felt like I needed someone that did that kind of thing, that would focus on performance with me. So yeah, and I really enjoyed working with him.
And what sort of stuff was he doing? Weights, recovery, nutrition?
He was just helping me with S&C, but we were focusing a lot on, I guess, posture and sort of correcting some imbalances, squats, like just big compound movements. We're working on like pull-ups, stuff like that, just all of those, sort of key big compound movements. But we were also sort of, doing some work to correct my posture and my imbalances and like, say, the tracking of my knees and all of those kind of somewhat boring things that you need to tick, So I thought, it was really good. I really enjoyed working with him. But, I definitely will be going back once
we can.
June 22nd. Woo woo. No one's counting the days.
No, not at all. We've got a countdown timer at the back, but no one's counting down.
No one's counting.
So we're with Steve and Hoshi.
Yeah.
Do they talk about how your training was going? So Hoshi's the head coach, structuring everything.
Yeah.
Did Steve have any input on where things would go? Would strength and conditioning go before a jits session, knowing you do it 2 a day?
Yeah. So because it was jiu-jitsu, so Tingy does all my jiu-jitsu. So when I was training with Steve, it was just jiu-jitsu. So Hoshi, I just kind of fitted in the S&C where I felt like it would work with my body. Before then, when it was MMA and I did S&C, Hoshi would work with, I worked with JT for a little while. He does Bulletproof for BJJ. He's really awesome. He's definitely one to check out. Yeah. Really, really good. So before MMA fights, Hoshi would, always work in with what my S&C was, or I've worked with other coaches, and he would make sure that it was just kind of fitted in right, so that when I needed to spar hard, I wasn't really wasn't flat, so that I could make sure like those key sparring sessions in my camp were really good, which I think is really important. And I find I do all my S&C before my jiu-jitsu sessions, because it feels truly awful to do it after, because you don't really think you're training that hard when you do jiu-jitsu, because you're like, this is so fun, or you're trying to get a choke, or you're trying to get an arm bar, so you're really focused on what you want, and you're doing a sport, so you sort of don't know that you're really exerting yourself, and then you try and, do a squat, and you're like, oh my gosh.
I can't. I'll just do body weight.
Yeah, it's really bad. So, so from that, whenever anyone tries to schedule it in after, I'm like, I don't know. I can't guarantee it's going to be a very good workout. I really can't. So now I try and do it before, like on a Friday before, like a Friday session. I don't mind doing it even an hour before, if that's, what my schedule sort of is a little bit. The further apart they are, I think the better it is for me. Like if I can do my S&C in the morning and then a lunchtime class and then a nighttime class, when everything's had a break, it's like my body can just regroup in between. But I definitely trust when it's MMA, like Hoshi would oversee the whole camp, and I just sort of go with whatever the plan is. And then for jiu-jitsu, because I'm planning it myself, I'm just like, definitely put that, that strength session way before jiu-jitsu if I can. Yeah. What about you? When do you do your, I'm so curious, when do you fit your strength training in?
At the moment?
Yeah.
Not very much.
Maybe a better question, what's your ideal then?
The ideal, if I'm working at the office, so I've got a desk job as a day-to-day, Monday to Friday.
Yep.
I really struggle with the mornings with the kids.
Yep.
I tried that for a while and I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. And then you finish work at 5, pick up kids, go to Jits, and that's, an hour and a half, 2 hours. And it's going, you know what? I know I need to do some strength up. I just can't. And then you're doing that, three, four times a week. Yep. Try for the 5th.
Yeah.
Tingy would have me on this one. The Wednesday nights, the no-gears, I would love to get to. I physically can't.
Yeah.
So that would be the 5th or 6th session a week, and that's is that enough? Probably not. Not for jits, not enough strength work either.
Yeah.
But when we were doing track and field, we were doing it twice a week.
Yeah.
And this was with a coach who didn't like strength training.
Yeah.
So that was very hard to put in. And this is when we were, late teens, early 20s. We didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah.
The coaches we had didn't really know what they were doing. And you knew that.
Yeah.
We have to trust you. We have no other way of doing it. But that didn't quite work out.
No.
Hamstring still ripped. So multiple times.
Wow.
That was a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, that's brutal.
But yeah, deadlifts were fun.
Yeah.
A whole lot of fun.
Yeah. I love that that's your idea of fun.
It's different because you want to do your deads because they're great for the hamstrings and glutes. Funnily enough, the hamstrings didn't want to cope with the running side of things.
Yeah.
But they were fun because you'd lead into the cleans and the Olympic lifts.
Yeah.
So that was, I suppose, if you can lift a heavier deadlift, then theory is you can lift a heavier clean.
Yeah.
That's nice work.
Deadlifts, you know how everyone has their exercise that they just really struggle with? So squats for me are fine. Deadlifts, I hate it. I hate it, but it's like eating my broccoli. I just make myself do it.
And the hip thrusts come into the deadlifts.
Oh, yeah, also hate.
Love those ones.
It just hurts so much. But yeah, and also my squat is always heavier than my deadlifts significantly. So I think my body's a little bit, just have a lazy posterior chain. I don't know.
Well, it's a bit of that.
Yeah.
A bit of depending on how you want to do the deadlift as well.
Yeah.
You'd know because we're both previous PTs.
Yeah, we were just chatting about that before.
We were.
Yeah.
And saying the good thing that we would have with any strength and conditioning coach, we would know what's good and what's bad. And we can go from experience as well, this what works, what doesn't work, which is where Steve fits in that category because he's really, really good.
Yeah, really good.
You can see his Instagram page, it's filled with athletes. And you go, he's must be doing the right thing.
Yeah. I think it's also when you've trained for a while, it's a like mind-body connection that you develop. So you can sort of see when someone gives you a cue, like, put your weight back into your heels, you can sort of do that and you can feel that your hamstrings are activated or they're not. So kind of good because, at least you're doing the exercise. Probably kind of bad because everything hurts way more. So I think as well too, that's another, area where Steve's really good. He's takes time to make sure you're doing all your reps correctly and properly. And I think that for performance athletes is the key. It's the big thing. Yeah. And I think especially when you think about a lot of it for me is about injury prevention. So it's that's the main reason I like developing strength, but also allow me to do jiu-jitsu 6 days a week, please. Sorry, buddy. Yeah, I know. So I think that's where it's it's good.
So how do you fit your recovery in? Do you do much recovery, stretching, pool sessions, cryotherapy?
I'm really bad with recovery. I'm going to be honest. I am. I'm pretty bad. I do. I've done the recovery boots thing because Steve put me in them. The the boot things.
Yeah.
But I do my thing, and I know there's not a huge amount of evidence, but for me, I just find it really works. I do a lot of ice baths. So when I'm training a lot,
I can't do those.
Yeah, it's brutal.
I hated them so much.
It is savage, but I really find that works, and I like it because massages, if you're training a lot, are really hard to fit in because you can't train directly after them. So ice baths are good because you can have an ice bath and go straight to the gym and you feel so much better. So yeah, ice baths are my thing when I'm training a lot. I try and fit in. I've gone through periods where I'm doing it every day, and then other times where I'm trying to fit it in 3 times a week. And also it's cheap. It's $4 for a bag of ice. There you go.
You can, and then you start getting 2-3 bags.
It adds up. It spirals.
Then you're training 12 times a week. That's a lot of ice.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And you can't reuse them.
No, you cannot. But it's still probably cheaper than a massage.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Imagine if you could do both.
It'd be fantastic. Oh, I'd still not do the ice bath.
Yeah, no.
I started doing the warm bath with sea salts.
Yeah, Epsom salt baths.
The other, fantastic.
So good.
I could never tell if I was any better after an ice bath or a warm bath with sea salts. I couldn't tell the difference.
I'd go hot cold. So I'll do like ice bath for 2 minutes with a timer, then jump into like a burning hot shower.
30 seconds for a minute.
Yeah.
And then back in.
Then back in. Do like 8 rounds. Yeah. 6 to 8 depending. I have to sort of build myself up. It's really hard in winter. It's really hard. But I notice I love hot baths because it's so nice and it's so relaxing and you sleep well. But I just, my experience with it just hasn't been as effective as ice baths, which is annoying because they're brutal and they really hurt. It's so hard. But yeah, I find that's my kind of recovery.
That's your thing.
Go to if I'm cooked. That's what I do. Yeah.
So besides the actual recovery, how do you recover between sessions? What do you do in between your 2-a-day or your 3-day for your strength and conditioning?
Yeah. For me, like if I can stretch a little bit, I find that helps me get my body ready to sort of move again. Or I give myself like longer warm-ups. I feel like that really helps me in between sessions. So my first session of the day, I can have a short warm-up and I feel really good. But then towards the end, it's like the more tired I get, the longer I have to sort of like warm my body up. I've sort of like learned that. And sometimes I will have an ice bath in between or I meditate and that helps a lot. Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah.
And then you got kids classes you got to teach in between as well.
Yeah. But I love the kids. Yeah, I love teaching kids. They're so funny.
Oh, there was a few sessions I saw you training kids at Immersion.
Yeah.
It got to the rolling at the end and I thought you're a coach just going to stand on the side like the other coaches stand at the side and coach them on a little bit, cheer them on a little bit. Then you started rolling with the kids. I thought, that's cute. And then you let them in a little bit, then you try and get an armbar. And we've gone, oh, wow.
Yeah. I think too.
This is with the older kids, not the younger kids.
Yeah. I don't know. But like they're, you know, if you've seen kids, like they get that look on their face and they're so competitive and like fast. Kids can be amazing, you know. Yeah, he's nodding. Yep.
Oh, yeah. They're great. They're great. They switch on really quickly. They get the eyes.
Yeah.
It's the eyes they set in. It's like,
ooh,
go.
Yeah, I know. So they love it. I think if you sort of wrestle with them a little bit, or sometimes I'll let them all kind of wrestle me at the same time and I'll be like, oh no, you've got me. And then I just pick them up off the floor by their belts. I got to keep them guessing. It's like we'll do handstand competitions or riding competitions. Most of the time I don't let them win.
Most of the time.
I just push them.
Give them a chance to work on their drills for the day and then go, oh, good job. Now look at this.
Yeah. It's fun. And also too, I think I'll always like rate there when they do a technique. I'll be like, oh, they'll be like, what is that out of 10? I'll be like, oh, that was a 5 out of 10. Well, that was good effort. That was a 2 out of 10. And then they kind of come back to like, how was this one? I'm like, oh yeah, it was a 2.5. But I really like, you know, yeah, because they love progress, like everyone. So yeah, I do that with kids.
How long have you been training the kids classes for?
Oh, I don't know. I taught kids class at Kings a little bit too. I think a couple of years altogether. I don't remember when I started because it was just like, could you just fill in and can you just stay? So then I just kept doing it. But I actually love it. It's like one of my favourite parts of my week, teaching kids.
It is fun.
It's very fun. Yeah.
They are much easier to train.
Yeah. They're just like little balls of energy too. Yeah, it's great. I love it. So
they adapt really quickly.
They learn fast.
They listen.
Yeah, they're really good listeners. And it's pretty amazing to see. I love sometimes you get the really like shy kids and over the time like Jiu Jitsu helps them become more confident and they become more outgoing and they're like laughing more and, you know, and even too I think some kids that aren't sporty can get into Jiu Jitsu because it's quite an intellectual sport. So I think it's one of those really fun things to watch. And also you can sort of see people's personality when they are on the mat, you know, what they're like. So it's really fun to sort of see their little personalities and it's just the best. Like I love it. Yeah.
Personalities are fun on the mat. There's lots of good fun times. Good fun times, especially when you're a white belt going against a blue belt like yourself or a brown belt like Nikki.
Yeah.
When we're training, there's a lot of smack talk. I do that a fair bit, especially when I'm about to lose. there was a time when Nikki had my back, hooks locked in, and I was about to grab her feet to try and break her feet, and she almost had the choke set in. I said, "You want to tap now? Look, the choke's in. I'm about to."
Yeah.
I thought that's my last stand. I've got nothing else.
Yeah, get into her head. How did that work out for you?
I tapped a couple of seconds later. I might have been on her feet.
Yeah, I know. It's really bad. Yeah.
But it is a sport where you can smack talk and congratulate each other the whole way through a roll too.
Yeah.
Especially in the gym whilst you're training.
Yeah, definitely. It's so fun. It's so fun. But yeah, there is. I think it's just part of any, like, even Muay Thai, like I think Jiu Jitsu more so because it's a little bit, because you're not ever getting hurt when you train, it's a little bit more lighthearted, I think, as a sport.
Mm.
And so, yeah, you do. Like, you're never going to get me with this as you're turning, like, purple in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rings a bell.
That won't work on me. But when you say that, like if you say that pass never works on me, then that person has to troll that pass and get it on you. So, yeah.
And then the next thing you know, they're going for it. Then you work out a way to get around it. I'm yet to get to that level.
Yeah.
Yeah, not quite. It's all fun though.
It is
it's
so
all
fun. Yeah.
So you're going to get back to training with Steve and get back to one more MMA fight.
I think until I win worlds, I will do jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Maybe if I was a medalist, maybe I would dip my toe in. Although, that being said, it's interesting because I think MMA fights are coming back a bit sooner. So this is, I mean, the only thing is if jiu-jitsu doesn't come back and there wasn't worlds this year, like maybe I would take, I've had there's a few little promotions that would be really fun to do. So, I mean, I think this year if like MMA came back, and it looks like it's coming back pretty soon. I know there's a few in Melbourne and Queensland that are sort of like talking about getting fighters together. Then yeah, maybe I would have an MMA fight first. But if Worlds comes back this year, then I'll just do jiu-jitsu.
Do that.
Yeah, just do that. Yeah.
It's a pretty good way to go.
Yeah.
That'd be not bad.
Yeah.
So you stopped PTing a few years ago.
Yeah.
So do you have a job at the moment outside the training and coaching?
Yeah, so I work at this gym called Spartans in Kilsyth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really love them. So I help them with their like social media, and I'm helping them develop their website and kind of do all the nerdy computer stuff. So still kind of in a gym, but just behind the screen a little bit more. But yeah, and I sort of found that I needed to also take a step back because personal training is still super physical. And it's a lot of like early mornings. And for me, it was also like, when my own training load became like so heavy, I was like, my body has to have some rest somewhere. And so I sort of found I needed to do a job that I could work, and not be burning my body out so I could recover in between. So I sort of found my sweet spot, I think.
That's not a bad spot to be in. You're still in that industry. You get some definite recovery time.
So I write about fitness, so that's good. So I think, I just can't leave the fitness industry alone. Like I love it. So health, fitness, jiu-jitsu, sport, all of that is like my favorite thing to talk about. So I definitely think that's sort of like my lane. It's what I enjoy. But I think even if you love fitness, I think a lot of people are like, I love fitness, so I'll become a personal trainer. But there's so many different things you can do, and still be in the industry and be involved. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
So that fits around the times. So you can structure, you can work any hours you like in the current job to fit around the hours of training.
At the moment, especially because I'm working completely like from home. But yeah, pretty much I have like really good flexibility and I work my hours around training. So that really helps. And in the past, I've run like self-defense classes as well, like done corporate workshops. But the thing that I found that was a little bit challenging with that kind of work was that it was still very physically demanding. And so all of the things that I like to do are physical because I love sport. So I'm like, but I think there was that thing where at the end of the week, I'm like, oh, I'm really so tired. And I think doing a job that's not physical if you want to train full time is sometimes the way to go. Yeah. There are some people that can do both, but I tried it and that's not me.
That's right.
Yeah.
So would you call yourself a social influencer as well with all your social posts?
I don't know.
How did that build?
I started, I don't know when I started my page. I actually was really late to the party because my mom's a hippie.
Late to the party.
I was very late to the party. I was like, I didn't even have Facebook or do anything until I think like 2015. So I'd never done any of it. And then I had this semi-professional MMA fight. And I was like, I saw it on, I think it was on YouTube. And I was like, oh, okay, like people are going to like check out, you know, you're fighting and you as an athlete, like it's kind of nice to not explain your side of it, but show people the other side of it. So I thought, oh yeah, I'll just start a page. And then I think, you know, and I'm not the best because I work on other people's social media pages so that I focus more on them than me and my page. I do like one post a week. But yeah, I sort of just started kind of updating people with my fights and like putting things together and putting, you know, trying to put out like helpful, I guess, positive content. So yeah, and it just kind of grew from there. Yeah.
Is there a competition between you and Hoshi on how many posts, how many likes and comments? Who's more popular?
I'm winning. No.
Of course there is.
No. Sometimes I do his for him because he's lazy. No. But I think he's the same. It was really nice. We just got it's really cool. I think sometimes I don't try and talk to everyone. I think when I post or like put any content out, I just try and have like a conversation with a person, and if it reaches, I think that's the thing with social media or anything, it's kind of like networking on steroids a little bit. And I just think of it as like when you network, you're just trying to build relationships with people and see how you can add value to them and keep, you know, build those connections so you have a community around you. And I think every now and then, you know, you're doing social media and you're like, oh, I don't know if this is really reaching anyone or if there's like, I'm really building any connections. And then every now and then you get a person that's like, oh, thank you so much. I just had this, yesterday someone was like, thank you so much for all of like the posts and the stories, and I check for quotes that you put up, and that just really helped me when I didn't have a job through like this period. And I was like, oh, that's nice. Cool. So I think that's where I see the value in it. I think it's like relationship building. So I don't know, the word influencer makes me cringe a little bit, but I think well,
do you want to label it something else?
Oh, I don't know. I just think of it as like
social friend.
Yeah, social friend. A good social friend. As opposed to an anti-social friend. But yeah, like you post really nice, like positive stuff on your page as well. And I think if you have one, and even that's, you know, we were just talking about this before we jumped on the podcast, like when you do a podcast and it's like music, you know, when you're going through a breakup and you listen to this song and it really just gets you, you're like, oh, that's the exact words to explain how I was feeling. And when we have the right way to explain how we're feeling, we feel so connected with each other. So I think that's where like podcasts or sharing things on your page is really nice. Sometimes you find the quote or you find the words and it just helps you feel that connection with other people. So yeah, that's what I focus on the most.
Do you get many negative comments, feedback on social media at all?
No, not really.
Or you're not checking?
No, I've never had many. I've only ever had like one or two little comments, and then I just, you know, all right, good luck. Wish you well. You're blocked. I'm like a mum. I'm like, you only get one chance. So yeah, and then you're gone.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's good news.
Yeah. So no, I haven't. I've only sort of ever had like, yeah, really nice feedback or people, you know, me. And I've done some like really cool work that I've got through Instagram and met really fun people that way. So yeah, my experience of it has been really good. Yeah, really positive. I've only ever had like, one or two, I think, little negative comments, and it's always by a person with no profile. Have you noticed that? Any negativity is always by like a profile that has no face, or it's like a private. I don't post enough to. Oh, I just noticed as well. I think and I never want to say anything back to that person that's mean, because I think, what if they're like, you know, I do definitely believe that hurt people hurt other people. You know, normal, healthy, well-adjusted human beings don't go around trying to tear people down. So yeah, I'm kind of gentle. I just delete, you know, move on. But yeah, because I think that if you're going to really troll people's pages, and I think, you know, you have kids, I have a son, I definitely worry in high school and with cyberbullying about all of that kind of stuff. So I think my way of thinking about that is like, if someone is going to hurt you and they want to like say nasty things to you online and they're not even going to speak to your face or give you a phone call, it says a lot about who they are, and that it's just best to disengage from that. So that's what I try and do. And
our kids have it much worse. Whereas back in the day, geez.
Yeah, back in the day.
I'm old. So back in the day, we would finish school, go home, and any bullying we may have had disappeared until the next day.
Yeah.
We could get away from it.
Have a break.
And the kids now don't have that chance at all. So talking about being worried about kids just having that constant negative feedback.
Yep.
Have you got any thoughts on not having your son go on social media at all, or restricting, at least teaching them how to look for the signs and don't worry about those types of people who are out there?
Yeah.
Not have online friends and just post stuff and just keep it completely to yourself as a photo album?
Well, he's 9, so we're not there yet. But I definitely am sort of aware that in a few years a lot of teenagers now are doing that. And I think for me, with parenting, it's so much of you projecting your own stuff onto your kids a lot of the time. So for me, I can't teach something that I don't know. So it's like, okay, if they're going to go online or eventually, or, you know, like even if it's later in life, like in their 20s when they leave, or they're 18, or, you know, like say in a dream world you manage to keep them off the grid and offline until they're 18 and they can leave the nest, right? Then they're going to be in their 20s and they still sort of need those skills, right? Because that's just part of how things are now. So I go, okay, like instead of being like, what can I do to prevent this from happening? I'm like, okay, well, what does it look like when you're using that platform, or you're using your voice in a vibrant way? Like, what is a healthy relationship with, you know, social media and all of that look like? You know, what is it when that you're connecting with people and you're building good working relationships and you're, you know, looking after yourself and you're setting boundaries and, you know, all of that kind of thing. And I think for me, I was like, let me just keep my side of the street clean and work out what that looks like for me, so that I have some chance of teaching you that when, you know, when that's there for you. But I definitely think, yeah, you've got to be really careful. I see a lot of teenagers, and I have a lot of teenagers that follow my page as well. And I think, okay, what kind of example do we set? You know, how do you show them that? And what does that even look like?
Do they ask you that question at all? Do they ask you any questions about what should I be doing in this sort of situation, in a bullying situation, in any relationship, family issues, challenges they've got?
The teenagers, I know, mostly teenage girls, some teenage boys, and teenagers are my favourite. They're just hilarious, right? Because they have that adult sense of humour without any of the know when to like pull back. So teenagers make me laugh. They're so funny.
You're very honest.
Yeah. So I more get the teenage girls like, okay, he said hey with an, like, what do I say? And I'm like, oh, definitely say hey with an exclamation point. Like, be excited, but be
text
neutral.
Or social.
Yeah. So I get more like, what do I say to him? And I think it's really funny. So so I think I get a bit of that. But yeah, I've definitely had some teens be like, what do I do? You know, how do I, you know, what do I say? Also, things are a little bit different, like what's sort of acceptable. And they're trying to fit in with their friends. You know, and it's like, okay, can you block that person that then you have to see the next day at school? Like, what is that? You know, they're all these little weird.
How does that work out?
Yeah, little weird things that come up. Because I'm like, yeah, block them and move on. Wish them love and light, and that's done. But then they're like, that's not a good enough
I can't
answer.
do that because I see them tomorrow. Then they're going to come at me and go, why did you block me?
Yeah.
Why? Because you've been an ass.
Yeah.
Can you say that? Can you actually say that? Don't know if the kids can do that.
I think the main thing is to listen. I think it's almost like they're being, not only, do they have these really, you know, so much information coming at them online and at school. They have this like information overload. So I think with teenagers, if you try and then give them all of this advice, you're sort of adding to that information overload, because sometimes they just need to process how they're feeling with it all and have like a sounding board, I guess. So I sort of think if you have the teenage girl that comes to you and is like, what do I say? What do I do? You know, I'm more like, have a little laugh and listen, because I think that where it gets scary, I think, is when they feel isolated. Or anyone really, when they're like, this is so big, I'm now so over my head that I can't talk about it. That's for me where it's scary. Like, if we can talk about it, we can work it out together. And if I listen a lot, you'll come to me for advice and you'll know that I'm a safe place, you know, and I'm a good listener. So I focus on that. I focus on listening and not giving advice to teens. That's my number one rule. Like, don't advise teens, just listen. And then from there, when they'll eventually, I think, then ask for the advice, and then you can have some adult input.
Was that rule brought in because something happened beforehand, or you thought that's not your responsibility, you're just there as a sounding board?
I think when I was coaching, I just noticed and coaches are such like you would know we're being coached. It's such like a powerful relationship, and it's like you want to do the right thing, you know, you sort of value your coach's approval. And so it's quite a powerful position, coaching, to be in, and it's a bit of a privilege. And so I think okay, if you're coaching teenagers or you're helping them or if you're on the mat with them and they start looking up to you, you sort of have to be very aware. And I sort of learnt early on that with teens, I would notice sometimes, and it's different. Like it was different than when I was a teenager. And I could just, like you said, you know, you get that negativity, but then you go home and you have a break and you're with your mum and dad. And that just doesn't happen at the moment for teens. And I kind of just realised like, yeah, they're really stressed about VCE and they're really worried about their results and they're so stressed out. You know, some teens that I've met are genuinely so stressed out and you're like, oh my God, you're 16. Like it's going to be okay. And I just sort of learnt, okay, like if I am giving all this advice, I'm kind of just adding to all of the information and the constant advice that you're getting. And I just kind of learnt listening is the better
way to go.
Better way to go. Yeah. And sort of listening without, I guess, trying to really hear what they're saying. You know, not just kind of like, oh, yeah, you know, you're worried at school. Like, tell me about that. Explain that to me. How long's it been like that for? You know, kind of really getting to them. Why do you think that is? And, yeah.
It might have been simpler when I was coaching at Corfu Grammar, the athletics teams. It was mainly the boys that I was dealing with. I suppose, coaching the sprints for the boys. So it was really easy to go, this is what you do, because boys are black and white and really, really simple.
Yeah.
Never really dealt with girls.
Yeah.
For coaching-wise, young girls anyway.
Yeah.
And then I started coaching out at Knox a few years later and then had my first girl to coach and she was 12. I've gone
a
up.
tween. Is that what that's called? Tween?
I had no idea.
Yeah.
No, was it tween? I don't know. Just teenager.
But in between, nearly.
It was very interesting going from the black and white of boys to I should probably ask some questions to females of how I do some things.
Yeah.
You can't talk to girls the same way you do boys, especially at that teenage age.
Yeah.
So you ask the questions, it's still very similar. But some words in the TLC is a bit different.
Yeah.
It's a bit different.
Yeah.
But then you find his face.
And you have girls.
I have girls, 2 girls and 1 boy. They're very, very different.
Yeah.
You can try and teach the girls particular things and they take it on, and then you say the same thing to the boy and it just doesn't flow, and then vice versa.
Yeah.
But the funny things with girls is they can give you a very different relationship to what they can their own parents.
Yeah.
I had one girl I was coaching, she would have just turned 12, 13. Great relationship with me, bantering, laughing, having so much fun. Parents would come to the track, complete 180, just complete 180. I'm like, are you the same kid that I just spoke to 5 seconds ago? Because you were completely different on the front.
Yeah.
And it was that moment I've gone, I'm in trouble. I need to learn how to do this better.
Yeah.
Because I not have to talk to you. I now have to talk to your parents about what we're talking about, because I'm pretty sure you're not going to mention that across.
Yeah.
Definitely the boys.
Yeah.
But the girls have that sensitive side where you go, this is what's happening, just so you're aware.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very tough.
And it's tricky because sometimes you're like, okay, their parents are going back to social media. It's like we talked about our social media, and then I was like, what about the teenagers now?
Yes.
So, okay, so you find out you're coaching, right? And then you find out they're like, oh, but this is my private page. So they've got the one that, like, you know, they've got the Instagram page that their parents can see and that they're monitoring.
And then there are other.
Then they've got their teenagers are slick.
Bit about this, yes.
They're smart. Okay, and then now you're a coach. So you've been privileged to this information, but now, like, you have to tell the parents, right? So you're like, how do you then tell the parents and then maintain that relationship? Because you're still the adult in it. It's like in kids class, I'll always say it. I'm an adult. What's my number one job? And I get them to put their hands up and they're like, to keep you safe. And I'm like, yeah, it's to keep you safe. So that's where I think, and also too, they don't want a relationship with a friend their age. They need a relationship with an adult. And so I think then that's where you have to, you're like, okay, yes, I can listen to you and I am different to a parent, but I'm also not your friend. You know, I'm the adult here. And I think
there's
that's
a clear line.
Yeah, and I think that's where you are the coach, and it's, you know, if you hear that little flag and you're like, that's where, you know, you need to very gracefully have the conversation with the parents.
Have you had that situation of a second page you've had to tell parents about it?
Yeah, I have.
Did they know about it?
No.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I know. I was like, what do I do? And then I was like, okay, well, what would I, if I was the parent, what's my expectation? I'm like, my expectation is that the coach is going to let me know anything that I need to know. So that helped me make the decision very, very quickly, very easily.
Very easy.
Yeah, very easy. And I think I'm like a black and white, straightforward person. So I always think when I'm at those, what to tell, what not to tell, what to say, what to do, I just think of integrity as like you're in the middle. And any choice that you make, action or inaction, takes you to integrity or away from integrity. And I'm like, whatever I do is a step either way. So am I stepping towards integrity or stepping away from it? And I think that helps me navigate those, interesting little, moral dilemmas, I guess. I'm like, okay, yep, if I tell, that's a step towards my integrity, or, if I do this or if I say that, or, And dealing with teens is like, it's big.
Really, really challenging.
You get in some interesting, like, little, dilemmas sometimes. And, they want that advice from you. And sometimes you're like, wow, I really need to think about that, because you look like an adult and you sound like one sometimes, but you are a kid. So, I love it. Definitely find I learn a lot from teens.
I don't know how I do that. If a kid came up to me with some of those problems, I'd be very honest with them. And I think most times I have been.
Yeah.
I still go and tell the parents, but on those occasions, I've actually told the kid, I have to tell your parent.
Yeah.
I can't not tell your parents, because your parents would kill me.
Yeah.
And then what are we doing here?
Yeah, 100%.
Some kids don't quite get it.
No.
My kids sometimes don't get it. So,
I know, we're the fun police. Yeah.
So are. So going back to your PT days.
Yeah.
Was that straight after school?
Yeah, pretty much. I did like personal training, and then once I finished that, I had sort of a job teed up just before I finished, so I knew where I was going to work, and then did that straight away.
We'll start from there.
Yeah.
Bang.
Yeah.
So what's next then? Assuming we get gold at the World Champs, go into the professional fights.
Yeah.
After winning the Worlds.
Yeah.
What's after that? Have you thought that far ahead? Do you look that far into the future, or is it just present?
No, I'm very nerdy. I'm very much like a 5-year plan kind of gal. And I have thought about it. I think I have my athletic goals, and I guess I have my personal goals as well that are always kind of, running at the same time. So I think for me, it's like first thing would be winning worlds, and then sort of as well in Jiu Jitsu, like as you move up in belt, doing that again. How often do you want to do that again? Because I'd love the opportunity to compete at black belt. So that's kind of like my main focus is winning worlds along the way and then becoming a black belt. So that's kind of what I'm working on. And I think with MMA, I would like to run that once I win worlds, or even if I medaled, I think I would be, willing to look at doing that as well. And then, 1 or 2 fights having a professional fight. And then I think for me personally, like I'm, I've got a house and I'm trying to pay off my mortgage and I have my financial goals. So I focus on that and parenting. So those are, I've got definitely like the little micro goals and sort of steps along the way that I want to tick off.
Want to achieve?
Yeah. I've done the whole like the years where I've been like, I'm just going to see how things go and like, see the opportunities as they come up. But for me now, I find that if I set goals and I chunk them out and into quarterly goals, that just things work a lot smoother for me. So
most definitely.
Yeah.
So Hoshi owns Kings?
Yeah.
Sole owner, or is it?
No, he's a part owner.
Partner.
Yeah.
So have you got ideas of having your own Amy and Hoshi gym at all?
No, actually.
Or you just stick at Kings and make that the world's best gym?
Yeah, and for me as well, I never really had maybe one day it would be different, but I like teaching, but I just never really wanted to run a business. So can I go in, have all the fun, and then leave? Teach the kids class, do the classes, train, have fun, and then go home. I think Hoshi's very business minded, so he loves that, and I like some elements of it, like the creative elements of it, or marketing, or things like that. But time with a spreadsheet is not my.
It's not fun. It's not fun. I was having a chat with a couple of guys yesterday. They said exactly the same thing. Coaching, training, just doing that, so much more fun than running the day-to-day business.
Yeah. And it's a lot. I think sometimes people love something. They're like, oh, I love this sport. So the next thing is to run it as a business. But I think you have to be really, really passionate about not only the industry that you're in, but also being a business owner or an entrepreneur, or having the challenges that brings up, because it's a lot. Yeah, and Hoshi loves to nerd out with the spreadsheet, and he's like, look at this, and I'm going to save this on tax, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
It's great.
Yeah.
Just come back with that's great. That's
wow.
Just try the positive vibes and try not to be too sarcastic.
Yeah. So he loves it, so I'm happy to support him. But I think, for me, No, I'd be happy to teach. I'd love to teach. I think when I'm a black belt, I'd love to teach some jiu-jitsu, but I don't see myself having my own like academy or doing anything like that. Yeah.
Have you coached many adults yourself?
A little bit when I was doing MMA. Yeah, not for jiu-jitsu. I think I wouldn't want to really coach until I was a black belt. And I don't mind doing like filling in or helping some of like the beginner classes or filling in. I really like doing that. But for jiu-jitsu, I wanted to wait until I was a black belt. And then MMA, yeah, I used to teach MMA class, and that was really fun. I actually love teaching. Yeah, I love teaching, and I like seeing people do well. I really get excited by that, and yeah, it's just seeing people come out of their shell and do better. And I think when I did personal training, when I started coaching and doing like that in MMA, I was like, oh, this is more. I'm getting more out of this than one-on-one PTs, because I was seeing people just be so happy and balanced from doing sport. And I was like, oh, this is where it's at for me. So, yeah, I would love to teach one day. But the business side of it, not so much. Not so much.
So do you put your marketing social media hat on when it comes to the new Kings website? And there's a photo shoot you did a couple of months ago, and the first shot that comes up on the page is you throwing Hoshi.
Yeah. The web designer actually picked that one, and I was like, oh, gosh. But I think for some of, I guess, the way it looks and how I want it to feel, I do definitely like do the creative side of that. And yeah, Hoshi gives me a lot of rain, so it's good.
So you didn't choose that photo to put on the front page?
No, that one wasn't my choice.
I thought for a minute, I looked at it last night, I looked at a story, and I'll get you to explain in a second.
Yeah.
But you threw him early on in your before your actual relationship, and I thought maybe there's a story there as to why you're on the front cover of the website throwing him around.
Yeah, it was really funny. We just sent a whole file of like, these are all the photos that you can use, and the web designer just picked that one. And it was really funny because the first day before Hoshi and I were a couple, the first day he opened Kings was about 5 years ago, and so I was there on the opening day. And then later on we got together, and I was sort of there and coached and helped, and we fought together and did all of that. And then in the beginning we had that throw, and I think it did make it onto the website, and then this one got put on there again, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cute. And it's really funny because whenever we like throw each other or do anything, if we do photos, he's like, okay, you can throw me 5 times and that's it, so get it right, because it hurts. So I was like, okay. So it was very funny.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. There were some really good photos on that photo day. Or maybe you posted some.
Yeah, that one got shared a lot. Yeah, it was really funny. I think because I'm a girl and I'm throwing a boy, I think people find that really funny, and like you can pick them up and you're like, oh, that's what jiu-jitsu is.
Yep. That's what we do. You can do that too.
And like, do you train with guys? And I'm like, pretty much all my training partners are, apart from Nikki, and
How does that go, by the way? Is it hard to find many females to train jiu-jitsu, and then better girls to train with for jiu-jitsu?
I think like training with girls for me is the ideal. I think I get better quicker, because also too, even if say there's 10 kilos difference, it's so different than if there's 10 kilos difference between you and a man, because the strength is just so different and uncomparable. So yeah, I definitely now I have like a few girls and even white belt girls to train with. That's really, really amazing. And we have some really good white belts. So that's like, super awesome, and blue belts. And like I'm really lucky, Nikki, Hope and Jess, and like a few females that I've had the chance to work with. And that's sort of helped me the most, because also women sort of fight a little bit different. So when you compete, it's much easier because you're so used to the way that the fight is going to go. If you looked at like, say, female lightweights competing versus like male lightweights competing, it looks very different. So yeah, I definitely think training with females is my ideal, but sometimes they no gi, there's like one other girl or there's no one. You're like, well,
I've got no choice.
I guess training with guys is great. So it definitely makes a big difference, because there's usually like, so I weigh about 65 kilos, and I think most guys, and I don't know if this is true, I could be lying, around 75, 80, 85 kilos and up.
Depending on the gym. If we look at immersion particularly, there's a difference between Glen Waverley and Ringwood. Laugh between Lee and Dave going the A3 size gis are at Ringwood and the A2, A1s are at
Everyone's so
Glen
big.
Waverley. So different. How does this work out?
Why do all the giants hang out all the time at Ringwood? Yeah.
Which is like the first name for you.
Yeah, I know.
And then you still beat them up.
Yeah, but it's definitely like, it's one of those things too where you might wrestle very different when there's someone big. Like, okay, maybe you play guard, but you sweep them really quick because you just don't want to like hang and be crushed on the bottom. So maybe you're like focusing on passing, or maybe you're just like, you know what, I have to stay on top the entire time. If I'm on underneath, I'm going to lose. Like if someone is over 85 kilos, I'm like, I really need to stay on top. This is what I need to do. Otherwise I'm going to be crushed. And like, you're like, oh, my ribs, my hip bones, everything's so sore. So I think, yeah, I really enjoy training with females, but and I've only really recently, because in the beginning when I was doing MMA, which attracted even less females than jiu-jitsu, it was like my only training partners were men for the first few years. So I was like, if I got to train with a girl, I'd be like, oh, I'm so excited. And my coach would just be like, no, sorry, you guys can't go together. You're going to train with the boys. You know, she's new. You know, it's not happening. And I'm like, I'll be nice. Yeah, I'll be nice and I'm good. And I just need a female. I haven't, or even too, you know, if you're training a lot and you're around guys all the time, sometimes you're just like, I just need a girl to talk to. So I love training with girls. But yeah, I've learnt a lot from training with men too. Yeah.
Did girls still find it hard to come into the gym for jiu-jitsu? Is the mindset of a lot of females not to train a martial art? Is that changing?
I think it's changing. Yeah, I think also too, it's a bit cooler now. Like I think in the beginning, so I was like 19 when I started doing judo and jiu-jitsu again. I'd done it when I was a kid. It was a bit of like, grappling wasn't like cool, you know, it wasn't. And now it's like, oh, UFC, Ronda Rousey, Ninja, like it's kind of, it's more cool now. It's a bit more fun. And I think for guys and girls, so jiu-jitsu has become more popular. And I think that, you know, you have CrossFit and you have that idea of like women training really hard and that being cool and not feminine, you know, because people be like, oh, do you worry about your face? Like I get that so often and you're like, no, I don't worry about my face. Like leave me be. I think especially when I did MMA or like, you know, just those little, like it's not girly, it's not a pretty, and it's not a pretty sport. Like, you know, it's not a cute sport. And I think now it's like, women have always loved to do sport, and I think more and more, especially probably because social media, we see more women doing sport and we see them like achieving in sport and we're like, that's really cool. So I think it's cooler now for the most part. I think it's cool. I'm going to tell people it's cool.
It's
super
cool. Fantastic.
It's the coolest.
And when you have kids, especially girls, you push them into a martial art to go, that's how to protect yourself. I can't protect you at all times. You're doing it for that reason, whether you like it or not.
As my dad.
A bit like swimming, you need to learn how to swim to save yourself. It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah, 100%. My dad was... He was like, yeah, you're going to do judo and this is how you put someone on their back and that's good.
And then run.
And then run. Run fast. Yeah, so he taught me, like my dad introduced me to it when I was, I don't know, I might have been like 10 or 11 or something like that. And it was really cool. It's a fun party trick to be able to throw someone or do something like that. So when you're a teenager, you're sort of like, you just walk around a little bit like, I can handle my body a little bit. That's nice. It's like swimming. It's like, you know, you just feel a little bit more confident when you're in a pool or you just... It's a kind of a life skill, I think. And that's why I think sport, just not even jiu-jitsu, but just sport on the whole is important. And
when the first time you threw boys back then, did that give you a heightened sense of confidence? Or you already confident in that just...
I don't know. I think my dad, because he did judo and he was a gymnast, so he was just, like how we would play was like wrestling. Like he would always just wrestle me and like throw me around the house and like just muck around. Like he's one of those really like, I'm going to pick you up and like, you know, do all of that kind of stuff. So for me, it was always just fun. Like I just thought this is fun and like moving is really fun. And yeah, I think then when I was a teenager, I remember just sort of feeling a little bit, a little bit more confident in myself because I had done so much sport. It did make me feel better. And I remember my house got broken into once and then this is when I was, you know, I'd moved out and I'm like 19 and I thought, oh, that made me feel like awful. I'm just going to go do some more sport and like I started training again, not even martial arts. And then I sort of found martial arts again, kind of as an adult. And then I was like, oh, this is so good. And you just feel, I think all the endorphins and just being able to be confident in how you're moving, you just feel different.
Oh, very different, much more confident, much more able.
I see it in the kids and teenagers, like they just sort of, they're holding themselves a little bit higher and and I think also too they're like maybe also that's the community side of it too. Like you have, maybe you're at school and you're having a rough time, but then out of school you have all these friends that you laugh with and that you're doing a thing with and that gives you some confidence too. So I don't know if it's just that sport makes you feel so good that makes you confident, or you have a community and that's what makes you confident, or it's a bit of a crossover thing. So, yeah.
Could be a bit of both. Could be the community side, a break of the social media like we we're talking about before.
Yeah.
Could be a break and those people give you that confidence to stand up to those other guys.
Yeah, and they're different from like maybe your school peers too. Like I did dancing and swimming and all of the different stuff, and it was kind of fun. You sort of have like when I did judo, I was like, oh, it's like a whole nother set of brothers, you know? And even too, I think it's fun now. I go to the gym and, you know, I have like this whole other set of brothers at Immersion, and that's really fun.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Yeah, it's good.
So you got your son playing basketball and Jiu Jitsu.
Yeah.
Is he likened to play football or any other sport at all? And you're having those debates about should I, shouldn't I?
Yeah, so, I mean, he's done like tumbling, which is kind of like gymnastics as well, because he was trying to do like backflips and stuff in the backyard, and I was trying to give, like, I was like, oh my gosh, you're going to give me a heart attack, like you're going to break your neck. So I was like, Dad, what do I do? Like he's trying to flip, and he was like, oh, just, you know, at least teach him how to do it properly. So we did that mainly as a safety precaution.
Yes.
And we've done swimming again because life skills. And I think the only sport that I'm a bit on the fence with is footy, because he plays a lot of footy at school. We haven't done the footy journey yet, and it's rough. Like all the little, like the grazed knees and the big. So I think I'm going to lose the fight eventually and become a footy mum. I see it happening. Yeah, eventually. It is. I think the tackling and all that, I'm like, oh my gosh. But maybe he does jiu-jitsu and at least, you know, he's fit. So
Well, in a way, jiu-jitsu is much more violent than football. The difference is you've got someone else running at you and
from the
potential
side.
from all sides, all angles.
And the floor is harder.
It is harder.
Yeah.
And you can't really break for when you're tackling someone.
Yeah.
And someone else is coming from the other side. It's a rough way of playing gang tiggy.
Yeah. Gang tiggy on steroids. Yeah, it's footy.
Very much. So is Hoshi a football fan at all?
He did soccer, so he was really into soccer.
They push him into soccer.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
Yeah, that could be the answer. It's kind of like footy, but with a round ball. Right?
It is. And you can act that something broke your leg when you just got a minor touch.
Yeah, I like that.
That irritated the bejesus out of me.
Yeah.
I played soccer for 2 years and I got touched and I've gone, really? That's a card?
Yeah.
Sure, I can't. I'm playing football on a Sunday, school soccer on a Saturday.
Yeah.
I did my head in.
Yeah. Are your girls going to do footy as well?
They've started football.
Oh, you lost the war. It's on.
No, well, I kind of wanted them to play it.
Yeah.
Because I've been in individual sports for a long time. I did football when I was a kid, so I loved it. I said they have to do it. You need a team sport.
Yeah.
You need an individual sport for those reasons we spoke about earlier, for your own loss and win.
Yeah.
Which is funny because you do athletics on a Saturday in summer, you win and lose. You get a time, you get a result. It's still about your personal best, and that's the way we do it.
Yeah.
But then you go to football the same year, there's no scoring. You can't tackle. Yeah. It's just good job. And the kids ask, did we win? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah. But on the team aspect, you need to work as a team to get the common goal, which is great for life skills as well.
That's why I put Zach in basketball, because I really only like individual sports. I know it's the worst.
Selfish.
So selfish. And I've only ever done really individual sports. I never went into a team sport, and I think that, and it's kind of, I think there's a massive difference. Individual sport is very introspective, and that's great because you learn about the self. But I think the team sport is, it's all about like navigating friendships with other people and carrying, like being excited to share wins and having more people around you when you lose. So I kind of wanted that for Zach, to have that, you know, the team sport experience. And it's been really good. And I think it helps. I think when you do a lot of, and you can see it, kids that just do individual sports, it's a bit more like of a focusing and extreme. And I think ones that do team sports are a little bit more lighthearted, and it's a bit of a different kind of game. So I think doing a bit of both is a good blend.
Good balance.
Yeah. We try and do 2 sports. We try and do 1 individual, 1 team. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Until football comes in, and then...
Yeah, then it's all over for me.
You're really nervous about that, aren't you?
I am a little bit, because it's like, for some reason as well, I think it's the only one that he'll come home like bruised, but he does love it. It's
the bruises, it's the knocks, it's the concussions and tackles that you get a little bit nervous on. Yeah. I would have been knocked out 4 times when I was a kid. Yeah. Up to under 14.
Yeah. And I think all the research on concussion, and that's why Zaki does jiu-jitsu, and I definitely know sort of like, I think research is changing with kids. You know, we know more about their growth plates, and I think some of the fear that we used to have around how we could train kids is different, and we have new information that we just didn't have like 10 years ago even. So I think sports for kids is really awesome, and it's better for their bodies, and they naturally like play and throw themselves around, and I think it's good. But I am definitely a believer in the multi-sport approach. Like, I do think it's good to give kids like a lot of options of different sports that they like and let them find their own thing, because I think an athlete journey is a very like intense journey to take, and I think you just want to like with everything give your kids like tons of options of different things and let them find what they love in it. Yeah. So I definitely I never was like, I'm going to make him just a jiu-jitsu kid and he's only going to do jiu-jitsu and that's going to, I never had any of that. I was like, I'm just going to give him all the sports and let him find his lane. So, yeah.
See which one he enjoys,
Yeah.
which one he's really good at.
Yeah.
And pray that it's jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Let's do whatever you like, but how
But
good's
really,
jiu-jitsu?
I know.
Yeah, I know.
You've got two options within there. You've got gi, you've got no gi.
Yeah.
You've
Live
got plenty
a
of
little.
options.
Live a little, do both.
If you want, get in the cage.
You
do
can be
that.
a generalist.
No. Generalist, no. No. What was that? Was that rule? General good at everything but great at nothing.
Yeah, what is that? Jack of all trades, master of none. Yep.
Which you were saying before, you'd much rather win a gold at World Championship in Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah. I think, it's even funny. Some people in Jiu-Jitsu have like a very set game, and I think I have the heart of a generalist. Like, I just love lots of things, but sort of over time I'm kind of like, you can do and be everything, just not all at once. You have to still narrow in a little bit and focus, I think. It's been my experience anyway.
So you'd have a 1 to 10 in terms of your game styles or your plays.
Yeah.
What would be your number one play then? Your preferred play?
Yeah. Oh, I think based on sort of my last few jiu-jitsu comps, I've been really enjoying like working from my guard more, like playing Del Hiva. I still love like pressure passing. So I think that's kind of, and I love like all my jiu-jitsu, like I think has always sort of revolved around taking the back, because that's what I started with. So I kind of am always just moving that direction through the fight. I don't, I enjoy leg locks and, some of that as well. But I tend to notice I'm like just gradually moving towards the back always. Yeah. And
then the bolos come into that?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. And obviously because like Lee's my coach, it's kind of like if you train with him, people are like, so you're going to show us something fancy? And you're like, oh.
Bolo specialist now.
Yeah, I know. And we were doing so much of it before.
We did.
Yeah. So
you were really excited those weeks. I can't wait. We got bolos this week.
I know. I was really loving it. And it was really fun because I play De La Hiva. So it was it lends itself well already, And I was like, oh, this is going to be so fun. But every time I would compete, I was like, you're going to do a bolo. I'm totally going to do it. And then I'd be like, oh, just pop up. You've got 2 points. Stay on top. I'd just chicken out and be like, no, just win. And then, and so then the next one I'd be like, okay, this time I'm going to do it. It hasn't happened yet. Haven't done it in a comp yet. But I think I like to be really comfy with something before
you go and do it.
Yeah, because I'm not one of those people that can just compete for fun. Like, I can't connect with that. I always want to compete to win.
It's a weird feeling, the competition for jiu-jitsu or any fighting.
Yeah.
It's very, very different.
Yeah. I can't relate to it because I've tried, you try different like mindset hats on. And I'm like, I'm just here to have a good time. It's about like winning or learning for me. But I tried that and it just was not my thing. I am more like, I just want to sacrifice to win and try to win and focus on that. And I am there for an outcome. And so that was more like just my approach to it. And I know that doesn't work for a lot of people, but sort of over time I just found like that was the truth for me. And yeah.
Winning is better. No one wants to admit it. Winning is better. Not winning at all costs, Michael Jordan type, but winning is always better.
I think for me as well, like
it's more fun.
Yeah, and I think doing things with intention is important. So I think that when I compete, I'm like, do I feel that I'm more likely to win than not win? And if I feel that I'm more likely to not win, let me train, let me lose in the gym, let me figure it out, and let me grow. And then, because for me, competing is because it is about recognition, I think. That's why they put people on a podium and they're like, first, second, third, they're like, this is that person that deserves this recognition today. And one day doesn't mean that you're better than anyone. But I think part of it is about recognition. And I kind of, when I realized that, I was like, yeah, sometimes we do things for approval and recognition, and a certain, like, if you draw all your sense of self from being approved of by other people, yeah, you're going to be really unhappy. But also human beings are sort of wired for connection. We're wired to want and seek approval in community. And so I sort of, when I went, okay, yeah, competing is about recognition, and like, yeah, today I won, and that's really nice, then it kind of helped me be like, if I don't think I can win, that's okay. This isn't the time to compete right now. This is the time to be in the gym, do more classes, learn and figure it out. And when I see something and I think, yeah, I could win that, and I want to push myself, then I know it's time to compete. So that's sort of how I did it in my mind.
Interesting thought pattern on that one. But is that related back to, you've got a goal of nationals, Pan Pacs, worlds, so I'm not going to do a grappling industries because right that minute I'm not feeling up to the level that I need to be? Use it as a training run, that sort of competition? Or would you rather go, I'm doing nationals, Pan Pacs, let's just keep it all on the table and train for those aspects that I want to work on?
Yeah. But if, say, nationals happened and I looked at the division, I sort of know who's there, I know when this is. I look at the division, I sort of know the girls that are in there, and I think, I can't see myself winning. For me, even if it was my goal, I wouldn't enter. I would be like, that's just not the time. Like, I'll push to be ready for then. But if I think, no, I don't think I'm quite ready, I think I need to go back to the drawing board a little bit, and I need to fix some things up, then I'll just go back, learn in the gym. And when I'm ready and I feel like, no, this is a complete game, yeah, I think I'll be competitive. Because I also think fighting can be really stressful. Like, so you're in front of a lot of people. You know, you have a referee. It's kind of an intense experience. Your opponent might be really intense. I think that if you don't have some confidence and go like, I'm going to push to win, for me, my experience was when I didn't believe that I would win, I would underperform because I sort of thought I'm going to lose anyway. So I'd actually fight really bad. And the thing that would upset me was not only did I lose, but I didn't even fight properly. And I realized that the times that I wouldn't fight well is when I didn't have like hope or confidence that I could win. So I was like, okay, I know it's time to compete because even if I've lost and it's been close, like at my last comp was Worlds and I lost on like a ref's decision. But the entire way through, I remember like my inner dialogue through the whole fight. I was like, you can still win. You can still win. You just need 2 points. You just need to pop up. And I was like that, kind of cheering myself on. So I thought, okay, like maybe not as well as I would have liked to, but I still think it was kind of true to what my fighting was. Whereas if you're like, oh my God, I'm being smashed, this is the worst, oh my goodness, I'm going to get armbarred, you're sort of on the back foot because you don't have that confidence that you're going to do well because you don't really have the hope that you're going to win. So I think with people, and this is just, again, like I know everyone has a different mindset when they go into competition, but for me it's like work on yourself, work on your jiu-jitsu, and then when you feel confident in yourself and in your jiu-jitsu, then competing can be to go and, you know, get the recognition and, you know, have the outcome that you want and enjoy it and celebrate like, oh, today I'm being recognized. That's fun. So, yeah, and even for MMA, I think because it was so not lighthearted as a sport and losing can be brutal. And I think, I remember I lost the first semi-professional fight I lost. It was like, okay, you go on YouTube and the next day you're like, oh, it's already had 10,000 views. Oh my gosh. So, you know, it's like brutal and then you're like, you have a black eye. And you're like, oh, that sucks. And so I kind of realized like, if I don't fight well in that area, it's going to hurt. So at least if I'm going to lose, let me fight well. And then I was like, what do I need to fight well? I need to have like confidence and hope that I can make the outcome positive. And when I believe that I can get the outcome, I fight better. So that's sort of my sweet spot. Yeah.
I suppose I'm not that level yet. I'm still very much, I want to throw up before a fight.
Yeah.
I've had a few and I still want to throw up before.
Worst.
It's terrible.
No, I'm so nervous. For me, I was just saying this, like, some people are like, how do you get over your nerves? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm really nervous.
I got thrown in a comp. The guy got disqualified. I got over my nerves pretty quickly after that.
Yeah.
That was the second fight in. I was going to throw up mid-fight, and then he's thrown me. I've gone, oh, cool. Or dumped me on the ground, sorry.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to control that. I thought I was good in the morning watching the kids compete, and then by the afternoon, I'm sitting there going, I'm not feeling very good.
Yeah.
I don't have a game plan.
Yeah.
Because I'm a white belt. And this could go bad, this could go good. I don't know.
Yeah. And competing is a separate skill to training because you also have to be really aware of the rules. You have to know how it's being scored. You have to understand like penalties and advantages and all of the different things. So all of those rules take time to learn. And I think sometimes, and it's not possible to be good at something when you're starting out. And even I take some of that pressure off myself now because I'm like, this is still the beginning of my, like, I guess, journey in some ways, you know. And so I think I don't have to know everything and I can have that time to learn. But I think in like 2017, I was just losing on like small little things and I didn't really understand points. So I just went, I think for like 3 months, I did every single comp in Melbourne and Sydney. Also, I did something crazy. It was like I competed like every other weekend in Melbourne and Sydney. And that time my intention was to understand just how to, you know, how the points worked and all of that. So I think, yeah, sometimes you just need that experience to understand how it works. And then you're like, oh, when I swept, I got the 2 points, or I came up and I passed, and that's why I got that outcome. Because it's the same thing. If you're confused about how to win, you won't work hard to win, so you need to understand the process. Yeah, so I think it's good.
What do you tell brand newish white belts who think about competing?
Yeah.
Girls, boys. Is there a difference in how you speak to them in terms of competition?
Yeah, I think everyone is an individual. So, like, that's why I'm not really like, you know, some people say, like, I treat boys and girls the same, old and young the same. I can't relate to that at all because I think every person is different. Everyone's an individual. What works for one person doesn't work for another person. So, for example, like for me when I train, I love to know what the workout is before I do it, the day before, and then I work out so much better. I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to smash it. It's good. But some people are like, no, I just like to rock up and I don't want to think about it. And I'm like, whoa, that just so wouldn't work for me. And I think training is like that. In Jiu Jitsu, I've seen so many different people like, no, I just have to be there to have fun. And I'm like, whoa, I can't relate to that at all. Or I just don't mind if I lose. I'm just there to learn. And I'm like, wow, that you have that like mindset is amazing. It so wouldn't work for me. Like if I had a coach who was like, just be there to have fun, I'd be like, you don't understand me.
No, not at all.
At all. We're not gelling. And even Tingy is always like really lovely when I compete and he just lets me be serious because I don't feel lighthearted. I feel so nervous and stressed out because I take it too seriously. And so it's kind of nice, you know, and I think that depending on the person, again, I just let people chat to me and I try not to give too much advice because it's so overwhelming. I think the main advice that helps the most for white belts or in the beginning with people competing for the first time in MMA is to understand the points and to think about like the first thing that you do in the fight, because I think that sort of having an action plan helps you calm some of those nerves. Like, okay, I've just got to get my first grip. Okay, this is the first punch combination that I'm going to do, and rehearsing that a lot. So, you know, if you, for MMA, you start on opposite sides of the cage. So this sounds really silly, but like I would be really nervous because Jiu-Jitsu you start up close to one another so you can grab them straight away. And MMA being on the opposite side of the cage and having to manage distance is awkward. I found it really awkward. I was like, can I just run in and grab them? Or like, do I have to like, you know, how do I get in? Like, how do I close the distance? What does that look like? So I practiced the start of the fight a lot. Okay, now I'm going to use this combination to get in and get my first grips. And I've just found like that advice I've given to a lot of people, like boys that have started MMA and had a fight night. I'll be like, okay, let's just be on the other end of the cage. We'll practice together. What's your first combination going to be? And then they're like, they do it again and again and again. So when that moment comes where it's their first time, they at least have some clarity and some sense of like focus. And I think for Jiu-Jitsu, it's like, okay, you don't have to know the whole fight. It might be a bit of a mess, and it's allowed to be because like sometimes it just is. But what guard pull are you going to do? You know, I think that's important. Like what grip are you going to do to get your guard pull? What's the first sweep? So that at least you can kind of start on the right foot. I think that really helps. So that's like my number one, I guess, thing that I say to people. That I think at the moment, and a lot of people have said, oh, that really helped me. Like when I was so nervous, just having like one thing in mind that I was going to do. I think action helps when you're an overthinker. It helps me anyway. So, yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
What about on the day nerves to new white belts or just any belt who wants to compete, who hasn't competed before?
Yeah.
Similar sort of thing? Go over your game plan, whatever calms you down, which is different on that particular day?
Yeah. I think, see, it's really bad because whenever anyone talks to me about nerves, I'm just honest. I'm like, hey, I'm really nervous. I think it's getting worse for me, to be honest. I don't know that I'm getting better at it. And I've tried lots of different things like meditating on the day, listening to happy music on the day. And I've kind of come to realize if you're nervous, it's okay. And, you know, sometimes I think if you need everything to be perfect, it's just nothing ever gets done. So, like, I think one of my little daily affirmations is done is better than perfect. And that helps me just get over a bit of that, like, overthinking or nerves, or I wish I was calmer in this situation, or I wish I was this, or I wish I was more organised, or I wish I knew because every time you compete when you're nervous, you're like, I don't have a game plan. Like, so many people are like, I have no idea what I'm doing. They do jiu-jitsu every day leading up to the comp. They absolutely know what they're doing. But in that moment, like, I don't know anything. It's like before a test, right? Like exams, you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't remember anything, but you do. And I think it's one of those things too, like, we all kind of feel that way. And you don't know the outcome. And I think it's the uncertainty of that that's really, like, tough. But I mean, if you knew the outcome all the time, like, no matter what you do, you're always going to win. Eventually, there would be nothing in it for you. There would be no challenge. There would be no excitement. There wouldn't be anything fulfilling about the whole process. So it's funny because the uncertainty is what kicks your butt. But at the same time, it's also the reason that you're there, because you want the challenge, because otherwise you would be at home on the couch. So I'm kind of like just being like, I'm really uncertain. I don't know the outcome. And I'm nervous, and I'm just going to show up and try and, you know, have a coffee, have a beer and do it anyway kind of attitude.
It's a very good attitude to take.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing. And my dad, like, he was a gymnast, and he's actually cornered for me for an MMA fight before. So that was really fun. And he's just like, just be loose. Like, you don't know the outcome. Just go out there and try and give it your best, no matter how you're feeling. And you're just going to see where you land. And that sort of helped me just get over myself and give it a try, because it's really sad. Like, if you're, and I see so many people in that boat, they're just so nervous and so paralyzed by the fact that they think that eventually one day they'll be so calm and then they'll do it, that they just don't do it. And I think that sucks. You know, I think, okay, you don't know that you're going to win for sure. Like, even though I go into comps with the intention to win, and I'm going to try and win, and I think I can win, I never say, oh yeah, I'm 100% going to win. I never feel that way, but I know I'm going to really try. And I think however I feel, and most of the time it's really, really nervous, really stressed out, totally sick. I've nervous peed like 4 times. I'm still going to go out and give it my best. And I think that even all the kids, they get really nervous, and I don't try and say, like, don't be nervous. I think that's unfair. I'm just like, yeah, you're nervous. It's probably a good thing. Otherwise you maybe would be a sociopath.
Or as a parent, when your kids are competing for the first time, Maya was more nervous for their fights than what they were.
It's the worst. Out. Yeah, it's the worst. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm sweating.
I'm looking around going, I really can't coach them. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a white belt. Nikki's here. I'll grab Nikki. Amy, you free? No, Amy's competing. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny. Yeah, watching kids is hard, and it's really funny watching them because they get, like, so serious. But then after it's done, they tend to just let it go quickly. So that's one thing that I think kids have kind of nailed. So they compete, they try their best, and then when it's done, they're like, oh, I'm so sad, they'll cry. And then, like, 2 minutes later, they're playing with the person that they competed with, and I think that's really cool.
That part's pretty cool.
It's cool, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. I think some adults need to take that attitude on.
Yeah.
No, but winning is the way to go. I remember going track and field. Winning was the game. Because to get to the Olympics, you need to win and be the best. Yeah. There's not many who have that attitude or give it their all to do that. Yeah. It's not really a developing skill thing. It's if you're talented or not, and if you're working hard enough. Yeah. There's some little aspects to it, but I got to the point where I ripped 3 or 4 hamstrings. I've gone, I can't do it anymore. My body's not letting me do it. Let's move on. Yeah. Peer pressured from a few people to get back in. I've gone, if I come back, I'm not going to run that level. Yeah. If I can't run that level, I can't do it. Yeah. And that sounds like an attitude that you'd probably be at as well, I would have thought. Yeah, I am. I have that attitude towards it, because I think for me, like, when I'm finished competing, I will still do jiu-jitsu and I'll enjoy it forever. It's like you might always enjoy running, or you might always, even if you're not running, like, taking your kids to the track and enjoying the sport of it. And I'll probably always love to watch jiu-jitsu. But for me, like, competing is to win. And some people don't have that attitude, and I think that's fine, because what I kind of learnt for me was, like, you have to find your own way when you're a competitor, because some people, it works really well for them to be lighthearted and really unattached to the outcome, and they work on that. They go, how can I, like, release this outcome and be okay with the result either way? And I think, yeah, if I lose, I'm okay as a human being either way, but when I'm there, my intention is to win, and if I don't think that that's for me on that day, then I'm not going to be there. And
Yeah, it's really funny when I tell people that because it's so unpopular, I feel like.
I'm sure it would be.
It is, right? To go like, no, if I don't think I'm going to win, I'm not going to do this comp. They're like, but what about the lessons? And I'm like, I'll learn them in the gym. You know, like, because also too, how many losses do you have in the gym every week? Unless you're like, I mean, I'm like 65 kilos. All my training partners are like usually 80 kilos up. So many people I train with are amazing. Like Nikki's a world champion. I'm getting smashed on like a daily, weekly basis. So I have my L's. I lose all the time. And I just think and also competing is expensive if you do jiu-jitsu. It's like self-funded. So for me, I was like, would I go all the way, you know, across the country, spend and invest in that if it's not the right time? And I think, like I said too, I think more so for MMA, but if you don't want to get hurt, you have to be able to sort of switch on and be serious in that moment. And it's like if you did, what's that one they do in the Olympics, like the bobsledding or like any kind
Olympics, the bobsledding?
Oh, what is it? You know, they put the helmets on.
Oh, the bobsledding?
Yeah. You're not going to be like, I'll just see how I go without a helmet. Hopefully this turns out well.
No, that's a life and death sort of question. Right? Yeah, no thanks.
Surfers that like go out into those mammoth waves in Hawaii, like they need to have confidence and belief that they can get good outcomes. Otherwise it's not safe. And I sort of feel the better you get, also the higher the level gets, the more pressure there kind of sort of is, because it's much more challenging and a little bit more unforgiving. And I think for me that I just know, I think I can win. I can see a way to win. So I know I'll work to win. But it's like even finances, because I'm so into personal finances, I think it's really important. And I sort of say to people, like, if you can't see or have any hope for the future and what you could have, you won't work for it. Like if you don't believe if you work hard and pay off your debt, you'll eventually be in a better place where you can provide for your family better or do more, you just will kind of self-sabotage and keep yourself stuck. You know, I think the number one thing to do is like have hope and have a goal and really get in touch with it and find a way to be like, yeah, I could do that if I did these steps. Because once you have that, you'll push, like you will, because I don't really think, like no one saves money because it feels good, right? It doesn't feel good because shopping's way more fun and it feels way better. Like you do that process for an outcome. And I think like sometimes workouts feel awful, like kind of burns, it's uncomfortable, like you're sweating, it's not a glamorous thing, but you do that because then you get to enjoy being fit. So I sort of am like, I think that it takes a bit of maturity to like delay gratification, and that's the skill in sport, in saving, in anything that requires discipline. And I think you can be disciplined. It's like even, you know, your wife, like she couldn't compete, and that's really disappointing because she was disciplined for that. She didn't put herself through like her early morning sessions because it felt really nice. Like 100% being in winter in like your doonas, it feels way better in the moment, right? So that's why I'm like, no, I sacrifice to win. Just in all aspects of life, I delay gratification because what I want in the future is more important. So for me, that's why I think like I always talk about hope all the time with any kind of goal. And like you have to have hope and you have to figure out what you want and get clear about that and have some clarity around outcomes, you know, so that you really work hard in the moment for them. Because if you truly don't believe like what you do matters, you just won't try. And I think that you need to try to get what you want. So, yeah.
Oh, agree 100%.
Yeah.
On the funding side,
yeah,
you got me triggering. Do you have any sponsors? Have you tried to approach to get sponsorship to help you get to those competitions interstate, overseas?
Yeah. I've worked with sponsors, and I think that what a lot of people, so MMA is much easier because when obviously you're professional, you get paid, and when you're semi-professional, they, you know, all your accommodation, flights, everything that you need is paid for. But jiu-jitsu is self-funded. And so it's important to have like sponsors or at least have a way to budget for that. That's why a lot of jiu-jitsu athletes, I would say most jiu-jitsu athletes also work, because even if you win worlds, you know, you're not going to get any money for that. And if you're in Australia, like you have to get to America. So you got to work that out. And so I think, and that's why a lot of athletes I know can be like really doing amazing and be very like financially struggling, or they're living at home with their parents, or, you know, you have all these different things. And so for me as well, like that's I think why personal finance was really important to get right to enable me to do sport. And also because I'm a parent, so there's a practical level of like I need to be able to provide while I do my dreams and goals. So I think, yeah, as That's why I've always sort of like been very nerdy and liked to learn about it. Yeah.
So is that a no? You don't have any sponsors at the moment?
Yeah, I'm working with Browse. I've worked with Herbs of Gold, which was really awesome. And I've got a couple of other sponsorship deals coming up as well that I'm excited about. But yeah, I've definitely worked with sponsors to help me along the way, and that's been really good. But I've also like worked and saved to compete, because it is very expensive to go overseas and compete.
No, it is. It's like we've, the Family Foundation sponsored Total Rush women's cycling team for the better part of 5 years.
Yeah.
Because we had a chat with Bridie O'Donnell about funding for women's cycling. In particular, and there was no money in women's cycling, let alone women's sport.
Yeah.
We're looking at something to do, and we know Bridie very, very well.
Yeah.
It was a very simple conversation to have and go, well, we don't see any problems with doing this, because you need the money to be able to travel yourself, your bike, all your gear, the team's gear, all around the country.
Yeah.
That's not very cheap.
It's very expensive. And there are a lot of athletes that I know that sometimes the reason that they don't do the international competition is purely that they can't finance it. And I'm like, oh, there's a part of me that's like, that's so sad, because, you know, like, you know, some people like could totally, you know, take it over the line, and you're like, oh, that's really exciting. But I think, you know, MMA, that's one thing that's a lot easier about that sport, is that you don't have to, you know, finance it. But jiu-jitsu is a different journey, and I think because it's not in the Olympics, and a lot of people don't even know what jiu-jitsu is. So it's like, and it also too, even when they watch the fight, like it's hard to interpret sometimes until you've done it for a while. So I think more and more as there's commentary, it's becoming like more interesting. And I think it was Levi Jones, they had that spider career competition, and I think he did really well and earned some money, and that was really exciting, because she's like, oh.
Was that 100K competition that was on recently?
Yeah. And so, I mean, he's amazing, and I thought that was really exciting, because I was like, that's a person that's dedicated their life to jiu-jitsu, and now they're having the opportunity to be able to provide for themselves. And I think that sometimes you have these world champions and they can't provide for their families, and they've dedicated their whole life to it. And I just think, but it's one of those things, they did it because they loved it and they made those choices. But it's really exciting to see a little bit more like competitions that are now, you know, they're having money and the athletes have an opportunity to make money. So that's exciting, I think. And also that when that actually becomes, I think then the level of the sport gets higher too, because now people can do it, and it's not such a barrier to all these athletes that would do it if they were financially able to. So I think as there is more funding in jiu-jitsu, as there's more competitions that make money, the sport will grow and become bigger and, you know, more legitimate as well. So not that it's not legitimate, but it just helps everything a lot. Yeah.
Definitely. Your current sponsors, I think we might have spoken about this before.
Yeah.
You post a lot of nice little photos of your kitchens and how clean they are and all the goodies that you get. And then if you come into my kitchen, it's the exact opposite like most families would be. It's incredibly frustrating to watch your posts. Of all that nice stuff that you go and cook, I've gone, oh, that'd be amazing.
Maybe it's
Could
just
someone
like,
do that for me?
It's just like one little, you know, corner of the kitchen that's clean, and then maybe that the rest around it is messy. I've totally done that before. You're like, I didn't take a boomerang, just this little area needs to be clear. It's just about the angles, maybe.
It could be that.
Yeah.
It could be on top of the 15 loads of BJJ gear you've got to wash every single day.
Oh, the washing. That's the worst part of the sport, 100%. The washing. It's bad.
It's bad.
It's really bad.
It has to smell nice for the next training session too.
You have to wash it every day, and that's heavy.
There was a really funny conversation that Lee, Dan and I had about fabric softener in the gym. You would have thought we're going to be talking about how we're going to, you know, take someone's back and choke them out. Really serious jutes conversations, and here we are talking about fabric softeners.
And then Lee's like, okay, nappy sand and a really hot wash if you want a white gi. Oof. And you're like, oh, he's such a badass, and he's telling you about how to do laundry.
It's like, wow, you've had this conversation before.
A lot.
Wow.
This is not your first rodeo, hey?
So I'm wetting myself off to the side.
Yeah.
Just wetting myself going, I'm doing the right thing. Good.
Yeah. It's like when you do jiu-jitsu, like your other hobby, and there's just like a photo of your washing machine. It's brutal. It's so brutal. So much washing. And if you train twice a day, like 2 gears, and then if Hoshi's training 3, and then if Zach's doing it, it's like, yeah.
It just doesn't end.
Yeah, I could just like, if I don't keep up for like 3 days, I feel like it could be one of those like funny movie scenes where you like close the door and you have to just kick it, like the whole house is clean, but just don't look in the laundry. Don't look directly at it.
No, that's right.
If the door's closed, it's not included.
No one can see it. It's okay.
Yeah. Just don't open any drawers in my house.
I think that's most families' houses.
Yeah.
Oh, this has been fun.
Yes, it was so fun.
How do people find you on Instagram, Facebook?
Yeah, so I'm not on Facebook. I'm just on Instagram. So just at Amy Prewett, and yeah, I'll be there.
Awesome. Thanks very much for your time, mate. It's been fantastic.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Thanks very much.